Hello, good morning. I am Dr. Jawahar Surisetti, and I'll speak about the art of thinking. In one of my addresses to the Columbia University of New York, there was a gathering of around 1,300 vice chancellors, and they were the gathering was August, and the president of Columbia University made a very cursory remark saying that Indian research is mostly cut copy paste. And I was the only Indian present in the auditorium, so I took it personally. And I felt that since I was the keynote speaker, I needed to reply to it. To a great extent, I agree that Indian research is cut copy paste. But in a gathering like that, it is not publicly said. That is what I felt. So when I got up to speak, then I asked the gathering about how do they teach their pre-K or the nursery school kids in the US. So one vice chancellor got up and said that we teach A to Z and 1 to 3, 1 to 10, sorry. So I said, with all the research that you have done, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is okay. But when you come to the 10, have you taught the 0 to the child? Now, this is something that ails the whole world of education, and it's not particular to India but everywhere across the world. That if our parents have taught us something, if our teachers have taught us something, we are conditioned to continue that tradition without asking questions whether this is right or wrong. So, we've not asked why 1 to 10 is taught or why A to Z is taught. And that is the premise on which I wanted to start the art of thinking, in which there is a question asked in all the current practices whether they are relevant in today's world, or maybe there can be some improvements, maybe there can be some replacements also. And that's how it started, the art of thinking. So eventually, the Columbia University of New York asked me to do a research on what to teach and how to teach to young kids, and then the Think curriculum came into picture. That's a different story. But the art of thinking makes it very relevant for today, because in the uh, reports of FICCI and CII, the two premier agencies of the industry in India, they have said that there is no relevance of graduate education to the corporate world, and only 15 to 20% are found fit for employment. So coming from the corporate world, our education system is in a question mark, that what we are teaching, is it relevant, and if they are not employable, then are we teaching something wrong? And that is how we started art of thinking. Art of thinking is taught in schools in the US, in the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation sponsored schools in the US. We have taken a sample of around 37,000 students who are currently undergoing art of thinking. So what we have done is that when the children come to school, we have put in a 5-minute assembly in which the child is given a thought, and that thought puts his mind into thinking mode, and that is what is required in a school, that the mind of the child is in a thinking mode and not in a rote mode. So the 37% increase in thinking of children, and thereby the increase in success rate of children in terms of employability, is something that we need to look at. So the art of thinking, we have a small exercise every day. Now, this exercise Whether it is good, bad, ugly, I am not commenting on it, but it definitely puts you on a thinking model. Now let's take for example. Let's take if you don't have a barometer and you have to uh, calculate the atmospheric pressure without a barometer. If the child is given this thought that what is the idea of measuring atmospheric pressure when you don't have a barometer, is a challenge which the child faces, and he is not used to that challenge because he is being taught in school that with a barometer you measure that atmospheric pressure. So putting the children into situations where they use their common sense and their thinking hats are put on to understand what are the ways and means in which we can do things which we have not been taught to do. But real world situations, when they come to, they will encounter this kind of things, and that is the readiness that we need to create in these children. So, in this regard, we have said that art of thinking is a very useful exercise, and we have also created a 365-day routine of various grade levels, in which not only they start thinking individually, but thinking in groups and thinking as a school also on what value they can add to the community, because that is what is the ultimate aim and not the formulae or subject knowledge that the content gives them. So, in this regard, we've had some exceptional things that have gone, and why this has gone. Now, let's assume that I was selling idlis by the roadside, and there were 11 more hand carts which were selling idli. And as a 8-year-old boy, if I am selling idlis, what is the differentiator that I can create? Because everybody is selling idli with chutney and sambar. So, what is the differentiator? Why would a consumer come to me? So, if the hand cart owner, who is my partner, his wife used to make pickles. So we entered into a agreement, and this agreement was that uh, I would sell the pickles. There would be no rent for the hand cart. If I am able to sell 10 bottles of pickle a day, I will earn a 10% incentive, that is one bottle of pickle free. So I would preempt that I have sold 10 bottles of pickles. So this is long back, and the departmental store culture was not there wherein you could touch and feel the pickles. So you had to, from a counter, ask the salesman behind on you wanted a pickle and you would get it. But here, what differentiator I created is idli is bland, the first supposition, and second is idli is white. So since it is bland and everybody gives sambar and chutney, I would give that spicy pickle, a little of it, on the center of the idli. So it added spice to the idli, which no one else did it. The second was that it created a disruption in the white monotonous color of the idli, like a bindi on a woman's forehead. The red spot added to the attraction of the idli. The third important aspect was that the person who had the idli could first hand taste the pickle and then ask for it if he liked it. So I would sell my pickles also. So this, if an 8-year-old can think, and this, if he is able to apply to create success in his or her life, I think in schools this is what is needed instead of the a plus b whole square and all that. That's also good. But how to apply this a plus b whole square into real life situations is something which we are not currently doing. So our children are after percentages without looking at the thinking processes and their development by the time they pass out of school. or college, and how much they can apply their thinking process for success in life is something we have not looked at all. So, this example of the idli seller and the thinking process and his success in life is something that I would like to apply to the education system. So, the art of thinking came into being. Now, in an IIM or an IIT, what is the differentiator that makes them some of the best institutions in the world? The reason is that the content taught in an ordinary B school or a tech school is the same as what it is taught in IIT and IIM. The only differentiator here is all events uh, done in IIT and IIMs are visualized, thought of, designed, and implemented by the students, which requires practical exposure to thinking processes. They do wrong, they do right, they are mentored by the teachers, but uh, the teachers don't do it. So, this is how, when you are exposed to real life situations, you will learn more than what you learn in the classroom. And that is a differentiator that IITs and IIMs create. And that's a differentiator that all of us should create in our education system throughout, especially in the schools, because that is when the child is best in his thinking process. So you will see a young boy or girl think about some things that is using as toys, which we have not thought of. Or he will come up with a simile that something looks like a snake when we have not thought of it like that. So, like Sir Campbell Robinson said, schools kill creativity. By the disciplinarian learning that the children are having and the one way method of teaching in schools, we are killing the questioning, the thinking, the processes that need to be developed in the child in the teaching learning process by saying that the teachers know more. It's a one way traffic in which you learn. You have to blindly follow your parents or your teachers. Don't ask questions. If you ask questions, you are reprimanded or your marks are taken off. So, and the result becomes the do be all and end all of the system in which we compete with each other. So, if the board result you get 96%, you become a hero, irrespective of whether you are selected for IIT or you do well in life or not. And most of the time, when children do well and they are publicized in newspapers, etc., etc., uh, their thinking processes still require a lot to be uh, able to cope up with the worldly lives. And that is why the huge amount of percentages that they get in board exams in the 12th or maybe high success in engineering and all are practically theoretical. So if you are doing well theoretically in the exams and listen to the teachers, you are bound to get good marks and in the practicals. And if you are learning in rote and vomiting what has been taught to you in the classroom or the coachings, you are bound to do well. But in real life, it doesn't pay to learn this way, and that is why we've seen a lot of high successes in board exams don't do well in life, and mediocre successes in board exams or elsewhere do very well in life because they have a very practical approach to thinking. Subscribe to Project Education for inspirational talks by global educators. Thank you all.